Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of the Let's Face It podcast. This is my journey with Ciaran May from Natural Resilience. This episode is proudly sponsored by Boyle's Home Furnishings, Liam Boyle. The shop just at the top of the White Rock there do all sorts of home furnishing stuff. Beds, floors, mattresses, everything you need. Liam is a very good man and will look after you for all your furniture needs. And this week we'll have Ciaran May from Natural Resilience. Welcome, Ciaran.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And I suppose to give people a better understanding of what Ciaran does and the impact that he's making, I suppose, in people's lives and in society these days. If you don't mind, and I know you might feel a wee bit uncomfortable with it, but I'm going to read out a review that Ciaran got sent to him from one of his clients, and bear with me now because I can't get a wee bit emotional when I'm reading this because I've read it a few times the other day. So, hi Ciaran, I've been wanting to send you a wee message for a wee bit now. Basically, I just want to say thank you. You came into such and such's lives in a time where he couldn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Honestly, you didn't just help him see reasons and a purpose to stay here. You brought him back to us. You've given my family so much, and I will never find words to thank you enough. In the darkest time, you were his light at the end of the tunnel. You are amazing at what you do, and we are blessed when you came into our lives. Thank you will never be enough. You saved my family. Your impact will always stay with us. How does that feel, Ciaran?
Wow.
It's powerful, isn't it?
The fella in question, the first night he came into me, I just seen myself at one point in my life in him. And we went on a phenomenal journey together, and we've remained very good friends. And built up a bit of a relationship, and that was his wife sending me that message, and I remember reading it and crying, just crying, just with the sheer emotion, and almost this, just knowing that I'm on the right path, that this is my purpose, and just knowing that guy's backstory, like even now, even you reading it out, getting quite emotional, it makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, and you suppose that purpose and stuff that you found, and I spoke to you just before we started recording, like everyone has a why, I suppose, in doing what they do, and I suppose I found my why after the journey that I've been on, and I suppose turning it around and trying to help people, and you've been on your own journey too, I suppose, which has led you to go and help, especially males in this world. As you say, you come in and you're a big man and your tattoos and you're hairy and you I wouldn't want to meet you in a dark alley, like, put it that way. But like,
and the reality is, I'm a big softie.
You're the same as me. two big softies. We can hardly fit the sofa, but I suppose you've had your own journey and your own difficulties, which has led you to starting up Natural Resilience. If you want to even start from the start and tell me a bit more about you growing up. And I only found out there and I were actually from the same street, which is scary.
Another synchronicity. Yeah, of course. My mission statement with Natural Resilience is to help as many people, or inspire as many people as possible, live a better quality of life. And I've kind of battled with why have I been drawn to this work, because it's selfless in a sense, and you're of service to others, and like we spoke about, getting messages at night and in the morning and trying to help people. I grew up actually not too far from here on Cumry Street in Beachmount, just a normal working class Belfast lad. And when I've kind of thought about this, going back to an incident when I was maybe 7 years of age, I've scar on the top of my head where I jumped up and hit my head off the corner of a cupboard, and blood obviously squirting everywhere, and the shock and the pain. I remember crying and my dad running in, just typical Belfast dad, do you know what I mean? I remember him grabbing, "Don't you dare scream like a girl in my house." And that's, I mean, we talk about these old things of boys don't cry and man up and grow a set of balls and do all this, but that was the reality for a lot of men growing up in these areas, that if you were to show any sense of vulnerability, it was to be seen as a weakness. I got that impression that even my father seen that as a weakness too. Now, obviously I didn't realise that then, or I wasn't aware of it then, but when I joined the dots going backwards, it started that journey of escapism and self-destruction and extremism. In a sense, I've always done things to the extreme, whether it was training, whether it was working, whether it was partying, and that only lasts so long. And I mean, life's been good. Life has been good for me. I got married to my childhood sweetheart at a very young age. We've had 2 beautiful kids. I represented Northern Ireland at the Commonwealth Championships in Newfoundland. Of great job, great friends.
Weightlifting, wasn't it? Sorry.
Yeah, I was big into powerlifting again at the time. But despite all that, behind closed doors, I really, really struggled with anxiety, depression, stress. Diagnosed with PTSD when my daughter, what was she, 6 in the round then? And I didn't know why. Like, I spoke to you this before we went on. Like, you were able to pinpoint a certain traumatic incident in your life, and I couldn't. And it ate away at me. Like, what is it? Why? I mean, I used to walk down the street looking for bins because I constantly felt sick. I was on citalopram and fluoxetine and all those different things for the guts of 7 years. Do you know what I mean? Dark days, dark thoughts, stress. And I remember being rock bottom, thinking, even with 2 kids, a supportive wife, a loving family, a good job, the powerlifting, I remember having all that and thinking, I'm not so sure I want to be here anymore. I genuinely don't think I do. And because I couldn't blame it on the loss of a loved one or this big traumatic incident, I was kind of felt as if I was going to explode. And I remember sitting with myself one day going, there's a high chance I won't be here in 24 hours. Thankfully catching myself on and going, no, I can't. But making a really deep decision deep down that day, like, I need to go and start working on myself. I need to start really improving myself in terms of my thoughts and my feelings and why. And I describe it as kind of like performing a post-mortem on myself. I was looking at, I found it easy to blame my dad or blame society, blame different things that had happened to me, different experiences. And I thought, well, I need to take ownership of all that shit. I just remember making a decision that I want to improve. When I think back now in terms of, my own self-awareness, in terms of mood, my emotions, my thoughts, my actions, I've kind of changed my life around massively. And from a young local man with very little education in terms of like our standard school education, but to be able to do that 180, it proved to me that anyone and everyone's capable of it. And I think then to be able to stand up and say, I know you feel like shit, I know you're struggling, but I've done this and so can you. In actual fact, I'm willing to walk a few short steps with you on your journey, and then you will do it for somebody else. So I am really passionate about helping people, and I will do it to the day I die. I've dedicated myself to this continuous self-learning and being of service to others. I do feel as if it's my purpose, and I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy with it being my role in this life,
And that's like, now you have a deep understanding of sort of why you were nearly put on in this life,
Yeah, well, again, like, I look back at it all now with an immense amount of gratitude. It developed my character and my own resilience. It developed my awareness of life, and the fact that life can get tough at times, and I know there will be more tough days, but I'm better equipped to deal with it. And I'm constantly trying to improve how I respond to life, how I react to it, how I perceive life to be, whilst also knowing that you're going to lose loved ones, you're going to lose opportunities, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to get hurt, and accepting that and trying to make the most of all the beautiful moments in between.
Yeah, and that's powerful. And I suppose, like, even diving back to what your dad said to you, and I suppose growing up in West Belfast during that time, on the back of the Troubles and stuff like that, like, he was brought up to say nothing and his parents were brought up to say nothing. I suppose you're at your age, you're a wee bit older than me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry your age, but you're a wee bit older than me.
21.
You were brought up to say nothing, and I suppose it was no fault of his own that you can't show emotion, you can't do these things because we can't be weak.
I didn't speak to my dad for over a decade. Him and my mum separated when I was about 15, 16, and I blamed him on a lot, blamed him on my anger, blamed him on the separation, blamed him on all these things. And this was part of my growth and my journey. We've actually only started building up a relationship again this year. kind of Christmas time, January this year, and we're going out for coffees and we're rebuilding that father and son relationships, which I'm really, really enjoying. But part of that growth was the acceptance of him and his journey. Mm-hmm. So I grew up, born in 1986, grew up here in Montgomery Street. To be honest with you, I can't really remember much of the troubles. I was a kid, but my dad grew up in Turf Lodge, balls deep in the troubles, and by that I mean the status quo was completely different from what it is now. His father was tough. Like he did have a tough upbringing, so that's all he knew. It was tough love in a sense, you know. So not only do I forgive him, but I accept that that's it. You know, it is what it is. I have learned a lot from it. I now have a son and a daughter, but I mean, I make sure I hug my son and tell him I love him every single day. And it's given me that ability to, I suppose, break a bit of a generational thing there, to then sit and have these conversations with my son, and that it's all right to cry. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I don't want him to be a pushover. Yeah. But if he needs to have a conversation with me, or if he needs to say I'm frustrated, that's okay. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think a big thing, I'm very passionate about men coming together. I think when you look at Irish history, our culture, we as men, going back to like even pagan times, Celts, the Druids, probably in rural Ireland not so long ago as well, but we sat in circles as groups of men. There's stone circles all over, even the Antrim countryside, where these elders and these chieftains sat together and they spoke about their dreams and aspirations, and, you know, speaking with this tribe and communicating with this one and the betterment of the tribe. And they had these rites of passage. And when you look at modern society now, say for talk's sake, a guy and a girl, 18, and the girl has a baby. That's her rite of passage. She's brought life into the world, and all the other elder women will respect her, and in their eyes she'll be a woman. But the boy goes and wets the baby's head. That's his rites of passage into manhood. He goes and gets drunk. So for here, there's no crossover point between a boy and a man. I mean, societally here, we go out with our dad to get drunk at 18. That's entering manhood, but really that's just covering up all this emotional fucking turmoil within ourselves. It's dumbing us down. It's depressant. It really is a depressant. It's to me, it's probably the detriment of masculinity almost in a sense. And I think that's why you see all this laddish behaviour of football teams and all. It's they go out to bars and they're small talk. Man United this, look at her, arse that. And it's almost like they're stuck within that boy psychology because there's been no crossover into being a man. I remember getting a lot of flack on this on Instagram. I put a post up about toxic masculinity, and I had argued that it wasn't that person had too much masculinity, but in actual fact he had a lack of masculinity. Because a man that's mature and is willing to love himself and respect himself, and therefore love and respect other people, wouldn't be abusive. Yeah. Wouldn't be disrespectful to women or children.
So he has weaknesses.
100%. Yeah.
So interesting. And you mentioned there, like, we'll go more into that, I suppose, the group work with men and the connections that you have with men in groups in a bit. But you mentioned there escaping reality. And I suppose through drink, and I can relate to that very much because that's all I done from 18 till 22 was escape reality through drink and cocaine. Was there ever a point in your life where you were just pretending to be someone you weren't, I suppose, growing up, you know? And you mentioned one of the things that I refer to, and it's the best way to sort of understand my life, just so you know where I was at, was, do you ever see the guy who was out in the nightclub and he's partying with all his mates, and then he goes home, and it's the advert on TV, and he goes home and he pulls the mask off in front of the mirror, and then he has to sit and look at what really is him. And it's one of the hardest things I ever from a young age, and I didn't really recognise these traits of behaviours, was looking in the mirror, didn't really connect with that person who was looking back at me, and ultimately it was down to me not facing my issues or my problems, and I was pretending to be someone, and I was escaping reality. Did you ever have that relationship with yourself where you just didn't like yourself, or was there ever any drink involved? Or?
For me, it was the opposite. I used to love drinking and partying.
Right.
I think for me I was the oldest in the house, so when my mum and dad separated, I kind of not so long after left school and started working on building sites and felt as if my childhood was ended. Had to become the man of the house. But I was 16, I didn't want to be man of the house, I wanted to still be a kid.
Yeah.
And for me, going out partying was almost that childhood, you get no responsibilities. So I just loved partying, you know, all weekend, every weekend, loved the rave scene. And it was a sense of freedom. But I think then when I look back, like we said, we're both big teddy bears. I'm not a hard man at all. But I'm covered head to toe in tattoos. I used to be a big beefcake. And I think that was the persona. That was me trying to be a man. That I had to be this perception of this tough guy, when in actual fact, I wasn't and I'm not. You know? It was almost, I had a tough exterior, but deep inside, there was still a lost boy that just wanted loved and wanted to cry. Felt lost in the world. Felt as if I was kind of going through life without a map. Didn't know where to go. Didn't know where to turn. I thought that asking for help was a sense of weakness. Had to figure all this shit out by myself. So the tough guy exterior was definitely a mask.
Yeah.
It was definitely a mask going in through the world with tattoos and muscles and then thinking, I'm just a fucking wee boy that just wants loved. You know, that was the real me.
And that's the big word there, love, isn't it? And it's something that I was crying out for a long, long time. Even like as far as early school days, getting in trouble in school, and maybe even when it gets to matches, getting sent off from matches and stuff, because it was just nearly like any type of attention is better than any of the attention that what I was getting. Yeah. So in my subconscious mind, it was like, that's some sort of love, that's some sort of attention, that's all I need in my life. And then you mentioned you had to take sort of responsibility for your life, and you had to make choices. And I suppose back to love again, the hardest choice you can make, or the hardest decision you can make, or the hardest thing you can do is build a relationship with yourself and to grow and to love yourself. Back to what I was saying about that person looking back at you in the mirror, like building that connection with them. How difficult was that for you to do?
Very difficult. And I'm quite honest about this as well. It's something I struggled with for a long time, because my warped mind at that time was, even love is a weakness.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, loving, saying the word love was a weakness. It was, you should be respected as opposed to love. I didn't get this right until my 30s, if I'm honest with you. I had went then I started getting into nature, I started going to therapy, started doing all these different things. And one of the things that I went and did was ayahuasca, which is like a plant medicine. And you do it with shamans. And it's like a psychedelic, like a hallucinogenic brew that you take. And it kind of holds up a big mirror in front of you, and you travel into your own subconscious, and you see all your patterns, and you see your childhood, and you see all these things that trauma or belief systems have probably covered up or locked the cabinets of. And all of a sudden you're ripping them open and looking at them. And the big thing I got was that I had lived most of my life in fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of not being loved, fear of not being accepted. And for the first time in, I think, my adult life, I felt self-love, like within every cell of my body. And I'm quite open about it now. I think the answer to all the world's problems is love. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Just pure, like, no limitless love.
Just on fear. Do you think fear is a thing or a state of mind or a perception?
Fear is an emotion. Fear is an emotion, but this is the thing. Emotions come and go. So fear comes and goes, but then we get stuck in our head and we'll have the likes of anxiety. And anxiety is almost a byproduct of fear. But I think the mistake we're making is it's now almost like I've got anxiety or I'm anxious. Yeah. But you're not anxious. You may be feeling anxious. No, it's a feeling. I think this is the Irish language describes it beautiful. Tabronorum means sadness is upon me. I'm not sad. Yeah. I'm Ciaran. You know, I'm not a sad. I wasn't born a sad person. It's currently upon me, and therefore it's temporary. And just like it came, it'll go. Yeah. And I think people are now identifying I am bipolar, I am A, B, and C. You're not. You're currently going through.
They're labeling themselves.
Yeah.
And if you tell yourself you are something for so long, you're going to become it.
I actually, on this point, I would love to ask you but obviously going through your program and that, And I know part of it is first saying, I am an addict.
Yeah.
But then where does that become counterproductive when you're constantly saying, I am an addict?
It's the acceptance that I'm an alcoholic, and that's fine. But then there's another part of Sister Concilio's program where Sister Concilio obviously was and very religious and stuff like this here, so take this whatever way you want to take it, and people put their own thing on it. But it's like telling yourself 20 times a day, I'm good, I was always good, God made me good, I am not my addiction. So there was
yes, I agree with this. Yeah.
So there's a thing like, there's a thing called like your primary addiction and your active addiction, and your primary addiction might be like the overthinking, the depression, the anxiety, the trauma, all these things, all these patterns of behaviours. And then the active addiction is me taking a line of coke by escaping them primary addictions that I already have, and that's what's making this thing go away until obviously the come down. I can't face a come down, so I'll stop myself from getting the come down, and then I'll just keep it going, and the next thing is just fucking madness.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's mad, but
I agree with that. Where you're, I am not my addiction.
Yeah, and I'm not. You know, there's some things that I've done that I'm not proud of. Some things that now, one of the big things is having to like accepting that you are an addict, and the second thing is forgiving yourself and stop beating yourself up with a big stick. And that's hard because sometimes I still be lying in bed 3.5 years later, going, "What the fuck was I doing there?" You know, but all in all, I've probably accepted it. Do you know what I mean? That I've made mistakes, and I suppose by doing what we're doing, it kind of nearly makes up for it, because we are trying to give back and share our experiences. But just on fear, and it's something that I learned when I went to rehab too, and that's why I asked you, do you think it was like a state of mind, or what? And you said is an emotion, and that makes a lot more sense to me now. False evidence appears real. Did you ever see that?
I'm quite passionate about fear, because myself included,
same
a lot of life fear of something. And if fear is an emotion, it has no more power than any other emotion. So emotion is energy in motion. There's a physiological change within the body when we experience an emotion. Certain hormones are released. Obviously, with fear, you've got the likes of adrenaline in this heightened state. The problem is people are now living in this heightened state. And this is like long-term anxiety. And then, of course, you're going to be exhausted. You can't live in a heightened state so often. But fear itself is just an emotion that has no more power over you than the likes of happiness. And we build fear up to be this big bad wolf. You know, fear is the killer of dreams. Fear is, you're not going to take any next steps in your career, your life, or your relationship because of fear. But for me, it's not fear, it's self-doubt. It's self-doubt, which is the big thing, which is in here. And there's a difference between the two. If fear is just an emotion, self-doubt is like our inner critic, that inner voice that you'll understand. All addicts always refer to the inner voice or the alcoholic's
I call
voice.
it the chimp, because I've read different types of books, and the chimp more comes from like a sporting
chimp paradox.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I would use that in my addiction just because I can relate to it better. Yeah. So,
and that was the book. I remember, like when I was going through therapy and different things, not understanding why. And the psychologist said to me, read this book, and it gave me a real good understanding of that monkey mind. It's constantly chirping. But the thing is, there's always the opposite exists. We tend to listen to the monkey, but we don't listen to the inner hero that's saying, you are good enough, you can do this. You do have a choice, you are strong enough. Sometimes it's just a case of changing the radio station to listen to one or the other. And
do you feel like you're in a position to do that now?
Yeah, don't get me. We're always our worst critics. We're always tough on ourselves, aren't we? But I now have the awareness to go, okay, here's the chimp coming back in again. Here's me being hard on myself. What's the opposite of this? The opposite is maybe self-compassion instead of push. You need to do this. You need to do this. Take a step back.
What does self-compassion look like to you?
Self-compassion for me at my stage in my life now.
Because you do hear a lot of people being like, be more compassionate towards yourself.
Yeah.
Be more considerate, look after yourself, self-care, self-love, and all these words get through around an awful lot now, which is great because we're taking a stance and we're trying to do things. But what does it look like to you?
Self-compassion for me is an acceptance that, you have to try and live in the moment.
The precious present.
Yeah. And let's be honest, every single moment can't be contentment and love, and because life happens sometimes. So for me, self-compassion is an acceptance that even in those hard moments that you're maybe not feeling great or you're maybe feeling overwhelmed, that you still show up for yourself and go, it's okay. It's okay to be tired. It's okay that you're angry over this injustice. It's okay that your kid's sick, so you're hurting. It's okay. So for me, self-compassion is an acceptance that, yes, we all want to help people. We all want to improve. Sometimes you just need to take a step back and I'm hurting too.
Yeah.
And so self-compassion is almost showing up for yourself sometimes. That's my take on it.
No, yeah, 100%. And like you often find, and I think like we've been talking for 20 minutes, I think we're very similar in a way, in terms of the way we are looking stuff about things. And do you, we're talking about balance and stuff before this, and do you find that it's hard to get a balance between being compassionate to yourself and being compassionate to other people? Do you find yourself diving into other people's sort of stresses or worries, or instead of looking after your own?
I used to a lot. When I started doing this work, I obviously very empathetic towards people's problems, and I think the reason I was so empathetic was there was maybe young fellas coming in and they were like, Ciaran, I'm stressed, I'm fighting life tough, and I seen myself. It was almost, I've been there, and it was that recognition, so I wanted to go above and beyond to help them. But what was happening was I was going home to my own wife and kids exhausted. Yeah. And I had to learn very quickly to not allow myself to match and mirror their emotions, And I kind of explain it to people as like they were in a whirlpool of turmoil. And because I'd been in the whirlwind of turmoil before when I was younger, I knew it. So it was familiar to me. So I tended to jump in the whirlpool with them. And I was like, right, come on, this is how you get out. But when you do that day after day, you end up exhausted. So for me, the difference was just to show them that compassion and to stand outside the whirlpool and go, lads, I've been there and it's tough. There's the ladders. You have to get out yourself. But when you get out, I'm going to put this towel around you and I'll help you, going forward. And again, there was maybe an egotistical element where I can help all these people. I'll help. And I had to, again, learn very quickly that you can't really help or heal anyone. You can inspire them to do the work themselves, but you can only really change yourself. And inspire others through your story, through how you live your life. But you can't do the work for people. Yeah,
and that's something that I would always say to people, even like people who I work with, and they would come to me and they're, they think by just turning up and sitting on the seat that's it, that the work's done. Like, but, there's one thing being aware and knowing that you need help. And we said it earlier about sayers and doers. Like, there's always saying you have all these problems and stuff, but actually going and taking action and doing something about it's a different story. But I would always say to people, like, see if you meet me halfway, like, we'll go places and we'll get sober, we'll get better, we'll feel better about ourselves, but there's no 70-30s or 60-40s in this relationship. It has to be...
I think sometimes people just need hope. Yeah. If they're in a dark place, they just need a wee crack of light coming in through somewhere that they can cling onto by their fingertips. And then a bit of guidance in that, right, I know it's dark, but there is light out there. Yeah. And start just making that crack slightly bigger. But at some point, they then have to walk on their own 2 feet. They have to rip down the rest of the barriers themselves. And that's where, like, honesty and integrity and all comes into it. Like, okay, well, why the addiction? Why the dark thoughts? Like, what's there? What's happened in the timeline of your life? And this is the thing, it doesn't have to be really traumatic. Yeah, of course. It could be being humiliated in school by, asked a question you didn't know the answer of and people laughed. It could be being rejected by a girl. It could be maybe not picked for a football. It can be what you perceive to be small, but it's had a big impact on you. And this is like a kid, for example, that was maybe told by his dad, you're not good enough. And he's maybe told it often enough that he's believed it to be true. And 20 years later, he's maybe still making decisions on whether work or life that
based on that.
I'm not good enough. Oh, I'll not go for that promotion. Sure, I'll never get it. I'll not go for the team panel. Sure, I'm not good enough. And it's then almost making people aware of all this. I'm a big believer. Most people go through life kind of sleepwalking, completely unconscious. And it's only until they wake up to the fact that there is so much more to them and to life can they then start to look at this. But at the start, it can be overwhelming. It can be frightening. And this is why, it should be just a wee baby steps every day. Yeah. Baby steps every day. Because how most people have this awakening, so to speak, is through trauma. Something bad's happened where they're like, right, I'm not going back there again, But trauma isn't the only way. The other way is through repetition, just baby steps of constant self-improvement or self-analysis, I suppose, in a safe environment.
Yeah, of course. And then just touching on, you said people were just floating along life, like, and I actually said it. I would always have journaled and stuff, and I still do. Like, and I think at that dark period in my life, it was more like I actually wrote one time, "I am not living, I am just existing."
Mm.
And the more and more, like I come out of from my, and I was like, wow. And the more and more I read it, and the years went on, I suppose I was like, that was powerful. That I actually had an understanding of what the difference was between just floating along and actually being like, right, this is my life that I actually want to live. Do you know? And that's something that I would always revert back to, right? What's the crack here? Am I just an existence, as you say? But life does get you sometimes, and weeks go by and you go, oh, for fuck's sake, I need to get back and really focus on me and my self-development and looking after myself. But I just thought I would say that about the existence and
everyone has that hardwired into them in one sense, because part of the brain is only interested in survival.
Yeah.
You know, people call it the ego, or the old reptilian part of the brain, where all it's interested in is safety, shelter, sex, essentially the survival of the species. So it doesn't care if you're self-destructive. Equally, it doesn't care about your growth, so long as you're here tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So there's part of everyone that's just hardwired for just playing it safe and kind of sleepwalking through life. But likewise, we also have other parts of the brain that are there for creativity and imagination and intuition and all these amazing, like, higher faculties that when you tap into, it's almost life goes from a grey painting into this amazing multicolored water print. You know, that's the difference, and we're only scratching the surface of it.
Yeah, and I suppose you say we're scratching the surface, and this is why natural resilience is here. And from afar, looking at natural resilience, like, it's not the normal thing for people to be doing here in Ireland or in the north of Ireland. Definitely, like, you're probably one of, I don't know, I probably count my one hand how many people's doing what you're doing in terms of outdoors and the water and stuff like that. And from afar, if I didn't, I suppose, go through the journey that I went through and the experiences that I've had, and I suppose the self-development and the way I live my life now, I would probably look at it and go, what the fuck is he doing? Seriously?
Most people think the same. My family were like that at the start.
And that's me being brutally honest, but the way I look at it, I'm going, that looks amazing, it looks special, it looks so unique, and it looks like it could be the start of something, I suppose, here.
I think it will be.
In Northern Ireland, like, and just tell me a wee bit more. For obviously, I see and for those who don't know Ciaran, follow him on Instagram, Natural Resilience. But some people haven't seen it. What is the reason behind you doing what you're doing, and what does a day in the life of me being a part of Natural Resilience look like? So if I sign up to Natural Resilience, what do you offer me if I'm struggling with my mental health and I'm stuck in a rut, and what sort of activities and why do you do these activities? Okay. So, do you understand where I'm at? Yeah.
Natural resilience has evolved as I've evolved.
Yeah.
You know, it'll continue to evolve as I do. And what it is now is we have a wellness centre in Lisburn. And on paper, the modalities I use would be the likes of neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, subconscious reprogramming. And even in the centre then we would have breathwork and meditation classes, just different things that people are used to. I think then when people look at natural resilience in the videos on Instagram of people in the ice water or up the mountain throwing boulders and that, the reason that's done is because all these self-destructive patterns, all these habits that we're unaware of are subconscious or unconscious, meaning that they play out without us ever actually being aware of them. So when we wake up in the morning, you can brush your teeth, drive to work, and not even really think about it. And then you do, particularly people that work in offices, they maybe do the exact same thing, drive home the same route that they've drove for the past 4 years, eat the same meal they always eat on a Wednesday, watch the same shows, go to bed at the same time.
Then it's Friday.
So the thing with the subconscious or the unconscious mind is it takes things literally, but it also is heavy on symbolism. And the way I learn fastest, so if you told me, okay, Ciaran, if you control your breathing, it'll help you when you're stressed, I'll go, okay, cheers, Donald, thanks for that. But how I learn is I would take people into the freezing cold. I'll show them how to control their breathing in a room like this, and then take them into freezing cold water and get them to do it under the cold water. Because then what's that showing them at a subconscious level, and learn then tangibly, is I can almost consciously control the stress response. I'm in ice, and
no matter the environment,
I've got into the water, I've panicked, I've went into that fight or flight, I've held my breath, and then my breath got very, very shallow, but Ciaran showed me how to slow it right down, and by doing that, my heart rate's then reduced, my shoulders have dropped, and I've became comfortable in the uncomfortable. So my takeaway from that is, okay, well, if you're doing it, if we're in a frozen pond doing that, and you can do it here, you can do it when your kids are coming out of school, you can do it in the boardroom and work, you can do it on the pitch. Likewise, it's trying to take people abseiling and blindfold them. And it's to show them that sometimes with fear we catastrophize things. So I will sit them down and say, okay, you're going to climb up this abseiling tower. Here's your hard hat, your safety harness, and your emergency rope, and then your emergency rope. And people get to the top and they look down and go, what if I fall? I'm too heavy. Is this rope's too thin? All the usual paradigm of kind of self-doubt. And then we'll blindfold them so they can't see how far it is. And likewise, it's showing them about effective communication, because they have to shout down to me, how am I going to get down here? And so it's kind of real life learning, but in a symbolic point of view, where they will then always remember it. Go, well, what did he say about the ice water? I remember being at the top of a building blindfolded, abseiling down. So it's trying to throw it right into the psyche, almost as if giving them a tool to going forward in life. But it's proven very, very effective. And it's proven very effective for people that feel a bit stuck in life or feel a bit overwhelmed at times, that they can tap into a bit of breath work or, meditation, or reframing their perception of life, trying to see the positive, trying to see where the lesson is, even trying to connect with like-minded people. Because I think when you start this path, it can be lonely.
Of course.
It can be lonely where you think, am I the only person that is in the meditation, or all these different things. So it's just trying to change the narrative of, I spoke to you before this, I'd done counselling. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Huge respect to any counsellor. For me, I didn't like the man sitting in front of me. I felt him very condescending. I felt very uncomfortable. I hated the silence. I hated that, Ciaran, what's going on? Here's what's going on. And I'm just staring at me. And I felt as if I was being analysed. I remember getting really angry. So I just want to have a different way for people to explore. And I'm not saying there's right or wrong.
Yes, of course.
It's just different.
And it's practical. And
it's practical.
I'm more of a practical person. And I'm sure, obviously, for you doing what you're doing, you're more practical. Yeah. And, everyone's at different levels. Someone could go into a counsellor and be that's them, and they found their perfect match. And as you say, it's for some, and I suppose the services that we now have, and they're starting to grow throughout awareness of what we're doing. You offer something that is very, very unique and something that's very class. But even in terms of meditation, the very first time I done it, I was in rehab, right? And I was like, what the fuck? And it was the hardest thing ever, because I was sitting with myself. I wasn't running away, I wasn't doing all these mad things. I was just trying to sit with myself and breathe and relax. And it's funny the way meditation is starting to come around again. That program was wrote by a nun maybe 60 or 70 years ago, and every morning, and I work in the rehab centre now, I was saying there, every morning the boys get up at 6 o'clock. For 7:30, they're in for half an hour meditation. This has been going on for the last...
Amazing. People think it's already furry.
Do you know what I mean?
It's probably the most hardcore thing you can do. It's meditations, like push-ups for the brain.
Yeah.
People don't realise the power of this thing up here. It can literally envelope you and consume you in flames and completely destroy your world. Or it can progress you to a life you only imagined or dreamed of. But it's all up here. And we seem to think that meditation's fruity or airy fairy. But meditation's observing your thoughts without judgment. And this is the thing, our thoughts a lot of the times control how we feel. How we feel dictates how we act in life. And our actions, essentially, and our choices. The life we're living right this second is a direct result of what we've habitually done, our habits, our actions, our thoughts, our feelings. So why would you not want to go back to the source and go, I'm going to have a better control over my thoughts? At least observe them without getting sucked in by them. You know, meditation is powerful. And this is why, like, our culture here in the West is a wee bit fucked up when it comes to self-development. When you look at the Eastern world and you see the monks and guys that live, I suppose, a quieter, more reflective life, they know this. This is taught in schools, that you're not your thoughts. You know, these thoughts come and go. You might have dark thoughts. You might have perverse thoughts. You might have thoughts of changing the world. But it's not you. And you can essentially choose which one to focus on. If they're flying by, you go, I like the look of that. Yeah. That's helping somebody. Yeah, I'll concentrate on that one. But meditation is amazing. It's amazing. It's helped me massively as somebody that was a chronic overthinker. Yeah. You know.
And I'm the same. I get like 100% definitely relate to you that even since I started working in QMware in the last sort of 2 weeks, like, because I be in the meditation with the boys every morning, like, I've noticed some difference in myself, and as you say, being able to control, it's the first thing I'm doing every morning, so I'm dictating what's happening to me the rest of the day. There's no one else, you know what I mean? It's getting that wee bit of time.
I think that's the best way to. A lot of people go, I can't meditate. Yeah, that's the thing. I've tried it and I can't. Those people are trying to meditate on nothing. Yeah, they're trying to, like, you know, I should have no thoughts and it should be silence and I should be sitting in the lotus position. The easier way to get into it is to meditate on something. Like, meditate on what day you would like to have. Meditate on one thought. Meditate on what you're grateful for. Just try and focus your thoughts or observe your thoughts without judgment. But meditation, once you kind of get into it, it becomes probably the ultimate tool in your arsenal of personal development, because you can then, in a lot of ways, dictate where life's going. Yeah. And you're also tapping into your higher self. You're tapping into that collective unconscious. You're tapping into so much intelligence there within every single person when you go deep with it.
And you mentioned their gratitude, and it's something to talk about a wee bit there at the start of the conversation. Like, how important do you see gratitude in terms of self-development and moving forward with your life?
I think a lot of people get this wrong, this aspect of gratitude. So when you do, like, self-development courses, and it's in a lot of self-development books, wake up in the day and write 3 things you're grateful for to get you into that emotional state of gratitude. And I'd done this for a long time of, you know, I got up and I was like, well, my wife is here, my 2 kids are in bed healthy, this cup of coffee is lovely. And then the next day and the next day and the next day. But that was thoughts of gratitude. Gratitude's a feeling just like fear. And I remember one time I got big into cold water swimming and being in Helen's Bay and seeing the sunrise in front of me. And there was, like, frost on the sand. I remember being there, and it was like Ibiza, only much, much colder. But I remember being, like, so grateful just to be alive, just to be there in that moment and feeling, like, deep, deep gratitude, the feeling of gratitude. And that's where the magic is. And this is where gratitude should be felt, not just wrote down. And the reason it's so powerful is then that scale of emotion. If you imagine hot and cold or dark and light, well, gratitude's up here and fear's down here. You can't be full of gratitude and also fearful at the same time. The same way you can't be hot and cold at the same time. So it's raising your vibration by feeling gratitude. But that's the trick, and that's where sometimes people get it wrong. We get into the hamster wheel of, I'll just write down what I'm grateful for. I'll write down 30 things. But you could write down 100 things, but unless you're actually feeling, it has little effect. But of course, write down what you're grateful for, but then meditate on it.
100%.
And go, wow, you know.
But it's feeling the feeling.
You're feeling the feeling of gratitude. Yeah. That's where the magic is. Yeah. That's the magic. Is subconscious is all about feelings. And I'm doing work with people, like, in terms of, like, goal setting, or if they're feeling stuck, where do they want to be in life? Of course, you're getting them to visualize that. Yeah. But the key to it all is to introduce the feeling. What does that feel like? Should you become that person? Well, if I feel proud, I feel powerful, I feel excited, I feel full of love. Okay, we'll hire that up, concentrate on that. Yeah. You know, and then you're bringing in the likes of anchors. You know, you're trying to anchor the kind of state of mind into that feeling of confidence or love. And it's been done in sports for years. You know, and you'll see boxers, for example, will have a certain song before they go out to the ring, and because they've trained their whole camp, it's what's called an anchor. So the song comes on, they're like, right, I'm ready. The focus comes, the confidence comes, the switch. But you can do that for to be happy. You can do that for gratitude. You can do that for all these things. So the key, the a lot of life is the feelings. Feel it. Feel it all. Feel it with all as much as you can. You know, but gratitude is powerful if you feel it, as opposed to thinking it or writing it down.
And even like feeling them feelings, even from, and I keep reverting back to me because it's probably the easiest thing to do, do you know what I mean? I haven't sort of been in a lot of the places that you're talking about, and the best way I could sort of describe me from stopping feeling my feelings, for anyone out there who like doesn't know how to feel, I always felt like I was in a prison, like there was bars inside my mind, right? So if I'm in this prison cell and I can't see out, and if I can't feel or recognise or connect, it's just this madness going on in here. But the more I sort of obviously talked about my problems and stuff like that there and started acting on things, that wee cell started to go away. And then all of a sudden there was a wee bit of light that sort of came in. And it's a good analogy or the way to describe it. A light started to come in and it opened up my eyes to like, right, there's a whole fucking world out there now. Do you know, and that feeling was sort of the first time probably in my life I was here. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't trying to run physically and mentally, you know, and stuff like that there. So like, stop beating yourself up. Would was probably my biggest message to people who are struggling with gratitude and stuff, because
start small
and you deserve it, and you deserve to be loved.
100%.
Is what we've spoken about nearly the whole time, and it all comes back to that.
Two big fellas just talking about love.
Do you know what I mean? And it all comes back to that. Like,
it's a gig,
but doesn't it? It's, and that's powerful, like, isn't it? It's
absolutely. Because if you think, I mean, we spoke about the power of gratitude being up here in the scale. That and again, going back to an emotion being energy in motion. Energy is like a vibration. So if gratitude's vibrating up here, love's at the top of the scale. Love's, I mean, the most powerful emotion. You know, it's the be all and end all. And your life is only as good as how you feel, isn't it? I mean, people go on holiday to feel relaxed. They buy a new car to feel good. Yeah, it's all about your feelings. This is why, you know, this whole thing in Belfast of boys don't cry. If men realise the power of their emotions, like how it felt to feel good, their life would change in an instant.
Big time.
But it starts small. I think sometimes we set ourselves up for failure, like New Year's Day. I'm never going to drink, smoke, eat a Chinese, or watch fucking Love Island ever again. And then 2 weeks later, you're like, oh, maybe get a wee chippy, you know. And then you go, oh fuck, I failed. But there's a great book on this called The Compound Effect.
Okay.
And he talks about just starting small. Instead of saying I'm going to lose 2 stone, just say I'm going to eat 100 calories less per day.
Yeah. I've been on 2 stone the last 2 months.
Well, I'm the same. I've got a dad bod now. But again, I'm not beating myself up. I'm actually going to start back to the gym, and I'm going to just start twice a week. Yeah. Just twice a week till Christmas, and then maybe 3 times a week, and just take it from there.
Slowly, gently. Yeah. And you mentioned there the power, just to finish off, the power of the group. You said that at the start about the men coming together, and I can only imagine from looking from the outside, and it creates this enormous amount of fucking energy or something.
Energy, bond, trust, respect. A lot of men have never opened up in an environment where they haven't been judged. Yeah.
Sorry, for those who don't know, Ciaran does a lot of group work as well as one-to-one, and the group work that I'm talking about is all males, isn't it?
Well, yeah, my wife actually does it for females.
Right, okay.
And I do it for guys. Yeah.
Right, okay. So male and female, but Ciaran focuses on the male side of it. And I'm just talking to Ciaran now about maybe the power of the group. I can sort of understand the power of a group from being in AA and being in, like, playing for Antrim and St. John's and stuff like that. So I've sort of grew up my whole life being involved in groups, but there's something different about being in a group, maybe the group that I was in rehab, where it was 12 people, and we're putting our lives out on the table, like, and we're talking about stuff, and that was powerful, like proper powerful. And I could, from the outside looking in again, I could only maybe relate it a tiny bit to what you're at. Like,
I think it's very similar to the rehab centres, you know, and a lot of the skills that I've used is from different retreat centres that I've been to and went to, and it's that sharing your vulnerability without being, like, you imagine playing, I'm a big advocate of sports, but you imagine going into the County Antrim dressing room at one point and going, lads, I'm fucking not feeling great today. Like, get up and get on with it.
Yeah.
Or, do you know,
Yeah,
it's just.
And I've sort of changed that environment within our Antrim change room.
Yeah.
Well, not me, but I mean, my manager Darren Gleeson, he's had his own journey, and I suppose more and more people are going on their own journeys. We have actually created an environment there which is fucking amazing, and it's showing it on the pitch, like, you know what I mean? Because we're playing Division 1, we're playing against the cream of the crop now. You know, Waterford's coming to Belfast, Cork are coming to Belfast, and we're playing against these teams, and it's nothing to do with our hurling ability. Do you know what I mean? The hurling ability's always been there. It's the power of the group. And that's why I wanted to touch you on it, because it's not sport. It's not. They're not going and trying to win silverware. It's their lives they're playing with here, and that's far, far more important.
Well, you think, like, we have shared both of our stories together today, right? Say we had met in a sport environment, and our conversation was superficial. It was about hurling, and
if we're in the gym, say, even,
and I'd be like, "Oh, dead on," and we might wave over again at the next time. But because we've kind of opened up and bared our souls to each other today, there's like a common purpose and this mutual respect for each other and mutual love for each other. So if we were to meet again, we'd probably hug each other and go, "What? Do you know what I mean?" There's always going to be that bond. So if you put that in a group, it's like, well, I've bared my soul to him and he's bared his soul to me. I would do anything for that man. I would go out of my way to help him. It just creates that trust, respect, and love. It's always going back to love. Some of those guys there, it's maybe the only time they have opened up and said, "Here's what's happened to me. Here's why," and no one's laughed at them or no one's called them a fruit. They've went, "Fuck, wow, fair play to you." And then the next man's shared, and he's maybe had an equally as traumatic upbringing, and they've all went, "Fucking hell, wow," you know. And there's just this real bond. And then what we'll do is we'll go up and cook over a fire in nature. And when you sign up to the group, you know, it's an agreement that you go off drinking drugs. If you're currently on drink or drugs, you're signed an accountability partner. You're given a journal. You know, you're asked to get into journaling. We do breath work. We do meditation. We go up the morns. We do a bit of hiking. We get into the cold water. So it's doing all these. It's getting men back into nature. It's getting men back into men's circles as opposed to sitting in a bar. It's getting them to think about their breathing, their lifestyle, how they treat themselves, how they treat their wives, their kids, their parents. And then it creates a bit of a ripple effect. So if 10 men sign up to it, well, there's 10 wives, 30 kids, 20 parents, and the ripple effect just goes out and out and out.
That's powerful, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
It's class.
And the ripple effect goes both ways. You know, we both have been on our own journey, and our ripple effect was causing our parents pain and heartache and worry. But now through the work we're doing, we're changing the waves and the positive ripples going out into households.
And I say it nearly every week in this podcast about positivity. Like, positivity breeds positivity.
100%.
If you surround yourself with positive people, you become a positive person, and that's
the law of attraction.
My mantra. Like, yeah, of course, yeah.
You know, you put yourself up to that vibration, and then you attract what you're in harmony with.
Yeah.
So when you start to kind of change your own mindset into looking for the lesson, even if it was a fuck up, okay, what's this showing me? Or looking for the positive out of it, you're going to attract more things to see the positive of, or to see the beauty in.
Of course. And I keep saying this is the last thing, but definitely the value of listening, like, and it sounds like these people you're meeting and they're in your groups, and even the people who I've met in rehab and AA, and even people who came to me, they've actually never been listened to before. And I think, like, there's a famous saying about God give you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Like, you know, I think listening is a trait, and I suppose you have to have it in your line of work now, that an awful lot of people don't have. And you're talking about being in the present and being here. For a long time, whenever I was having conversations, I was here, but I wasn't here. It was like running away. My mind was running away. Yeah. But actually being here and being able to listen to you, listen to your problems, listen to whatever's going on in your life. In my experience, I've found that's all someone really needs sometimes, is a bit of love, and someone just to be like, "Do you know what, I'm listening to you, I'm hear your problems." And sometimes you don't even need to give them an answer, because they can hear the answers themselves, because they're talking about their problems out loud. How much do you value listening?
I think it's probably the most underrated skill. And you're right, everyone has a story. Yeah. Most people haven't got an opportunity to tell their story. Yeah. And I think this is why people write.
That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah. But I think that the other side of that is when you see people writing their problems on the likes of Facebook, which I don't agree with. Yeah. But it's almost to have no one there to tell it to. Yeah. Because life's so fast paced, you know. So you could say to me, "Ciaran, I crashed my car," and I go, "I did on, but I've got that." You know. Yeah. That's how it is now. We all need to slow down and get back into these conversations. I love this. I love sitting having a conversation as opposed to WhatsApp or Snapchat, and sit down and speak to people, and equally sit down and listen to people too. It's powerful. You know, this is what we are designed as human beings to do. It's not to sit behind screens. Only 12% of communication is verbal. Right. There's your body language, your breathing, your eye movement, all these things. And we're falling away from that. Yeah. We're just sitting. Yeah. And you know, and I could be in the depths of depression in my room with the blinds closed going, I fucking don't want to face the world today, and sending you laughing emojis, and you go, oh, Ciaran's happy. You know? Whereas if I had to come in here, you would go, fuck, you alright, big man? Because you would pick up on how I'm standing and how I'm looking and how I'm sounding. Yeah. You know? And I suppose by you saying all that and doing what you're doing, everything you're like, the value of outdoors as well is massive, isn't it? Getting back to nature. Yeah. I think that's anyone that asks me, like, I'm stuck, what's the one thing I can do today to make me feel better? Yeah. Even if you are struggling, is get out in nature and go for a walk. As simple and cliche as that sounds, you just feel better. Even if it's just a bit, but you're going to feel much better than you are in a dark room or in the living room watching shit on TV. There's science there to prove it, you know, in terms of serotonin, and that's increased, and our fresh air. But again, without sounding too harsh, we don't really have an excuse in Belfast. We all live within a 10-minute walk of some form of greenery or a park or a pond or something. The Black Mountain is, I know any time I felt overwhelmed by life up and down that Black Mountain, I just felt. And I always noticed that when I was walking up, the people that were walking back down, they looked you in the eyes and smiled and said hello. And I remember always thinking, fuck, they have found their happiness at the top of that mountain. But it's because they've got out and walked. It's true. It's the best drug there is out there. Yeah. And that's like, I'm very, very passionate about that, like about activity and outdoor swimming and stuff like that. Like it genuinely is the endorphins that can create in your mind is powerful. But just to finish off, you're also, we didn't even talk about the Happy Fest, sorry. It's fine. But the Happy Fest, just quickly, is actually the first in of its kind, I suppose, in the north. Who, go ahead, you can tell me a bit more. As controversial as this sounds, I don't believe the long-term answer is antidepressants in that. I know it helps people short-term, but I don't think it's the answer long-term. And I felt really compelled, along with the girl Ciara that I went into Happy Fest with, to show people. That's Ciara Daly, the makeup girl? Yes. Okay. So her and I have both been on our own individual journeys, and we've both found our power and the benefit of all these other holistic or alternative medicines or modalities, whether it's acupuncture or nature, cold water swimming, yoga, all these things. So we kind of thought we need to get the alternative and make them mainstream. So we had Happy Fest on the 21st of August, which was 40 exhibitors of like yoga, CBD, all these different things. Guest speakers, and we got nearly 1,000 people to show up at Crawfordsburn on this phenomenal day. And then, we're going to do it over 2 days next year, because what we found was, our message was, suicide's not the answer. And no matter how down you're feeling, there are people out there in this city that are amazing at what to do. And they're maybe just not as well known as citalopram or sertraline or alcohol or cocaine, whatever it may be, but there's positive things out there, and people like yourself that have devoted their very existence to helping people. So it was to try and showcase them and to show people that are on the fence about all this that at least give it a try, you know. And that's class what you're doing. And then I suppose the hero's journey is natural resilience, is through myself and natural resilience. So it's an 8-week course. Okay. So if people come in and they have one-to-one chats like this, but it's like this, it's us sitting down like this over a cup of tea, trying to work out, why they're maybe feeling as if, and it's not for people that have just had trauma, it's for people, of course. There's business owners, there's athletes, it's anyone that just wants a wee bit more out of life, like knows they have a wee bit more to give. But the difference is, we'll go and do wild camping, we'll go hiking, we'll get them into the water, connect them with other like-minded people, try and give them opportunities to progress themselves, whether it's speaking at events, just showing them the power of stepping outside of your comfort zone, the power of connection, getting them to do different classes. And it's again, that testimonial that you read out at the beginning, was from the hero's journey.
Okay.
So it's just trying to improve people's quality of life, essentially.
Class. And I suppose we heard firsthand the impact that Ciaran is making in our society and trying to make a difference. But Ciaran May, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I could talk to you for another hour, but it was amazing. Yeah, so did I. It was brilliant and very, very insightful. You can check Ciaran out, e.co.uk or .com.
.co.uk,
I think it is .co.uk. Naturalresilience.co.uk, where you can find out everything that he does. I'd also recommend following him on Instagram. There's lots of wee nuggets and stuff you can take, and of course he has his one-to-one mentoring program as well. But a huge thanks to Liam Boyle in Boyle's Home Furnishings for sponsoring this week's episode. Liam's been a great support to myself over the years, and I really appreciate it. So go check them out. There's some brilliant beds up there. Orthopedic. Don't know the names, any names of beds anymore. No. They do lovely floors and mats and stuff like that there. So go up and get your house. They actually kitted out this office, this sofa and stuff. So that all came from Boyle's, and these wee tables and all. So, and they've held us two big men like so. So big thanks to Liam Boyle, and I will see you all soon. Thanks very much, and thanks for all the support. Cheers.
Thank you.